Hello, I'm Paul Briley, and you're listening to Off the Comma. On this podcast, we explore all facets of what it means to feel stuck in life. We talk with people just like us who have found themselves sitting on a comma and not knowing where to go next. We'll unpack the experience, where they felt stuck, what they experienced, and what they learned. My goal is to inspire you by seeing yourself in others and finding possibility for yourself. Let's get into this week's conversation. Welcome back, everybody, to another exciting episode of Off the Comma. Very pleased to be here again. This is just crazy how we're on our way in a couple of months to being 3 years on the air with this podcast. It's very exciting, and it's a pretty cool milestone for me. So this week, I'm excited because I'm going to be talking to another person who I have not had an opportunity to meet and talk to yet. So I'm going to get to learn about him through his story today, and be able to add, another person to our community of storytellers and another person's story who's going to enlighten and inspire and potentially give me some things to self-reflect on. So I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to hand it over to Zylo Marshall. Zylo, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Why don't you start with, like we do with every guest, how would you like to be known? And then tell us a little bit more about you, whatever you'd like for us to know about you.
Oh, I want to be known by Zylo Marshall, my name. Okay. And for about me, I love people. I like being around people. I enjoy social environments to overcome my own disabilities. Got no fear in speaking in front of people. I may make a fool of myself. That's going to happen in life, no matter what you do. Okay.
Mm.
But that's more or less about me going from um, a troubled kid to somebody who was in real estate trying to become successful while having a disability.
Okay. I'm excited to hear kind of more about how some of these details show up in your story a little bit later on. What else would be important for people to know about you just by way of an introduction to get started?
Um, I wouldn't mind being on TV to discuss the issue in front of millions of people to help us understand that disabled people are human beings that need to be respected
Mm.
and talked to and not talked about. I think it's very, very
Mm.
important. There's a lot of people out there with disabilities that are trying, and no matter what they do, they're rejected just because of their disability. And they're shy and they're scared and they're crushed. And they're like, who do I go to? I'm 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, and I can't because I'm disabled and there's nobody out there to help me.
Mm.
So you got to have people out there in the same situation to understand what we're going through, understand, and that we can we can do it if we work together.
Mm.
Mhm.
It's a powerful message that you're conveying, and it's and again, I'll reflect things as we talk, Silo. So if I ever misreflect or misrepresent anything, by all means, please correct me. But what I believe I'm hearing you say is that potentially what you'll be sharing with us today is not just your story, but a story that represents so many other people with similar or parallel types of experiences, which fits really well with the theme of our podcast, because that's kind of what I personally want to accomplish with every one of our episodes, is that we can relate to each other, we can understand and appreciate each
Right.
other more, and that we also model and demonstrate the fact that having a conversation and listening to people as individuals is just as valuable as reading something about groups of individuals to learn about them. Like, if you want to know, just ask someone, right?
Exactly.
Okay,
Don't
nice.
be shy. If you're going to be shy, it's going to be very, very difficult. You got to overcome that shyness and know that you're going to get five no's before you get one yes. Having to hear no is not easy, but you got to go to the next person, next person, next person, next person, and it's annoying, but that's where you succeed by not giving up on your objective in life if it's
Mm.
for the right reasons.
Mm, and working with the discomfort too, right? Like, it's a
Yes.
lesson for all of us. Zylo, we're going to get into the 5 questions and your specific story here in just a couple of moments. But one thing I do with every guest before we get started is, as you think ahead to the next 35, 40 minutes or so of our conversation, sharing your story with everybody today, what intention would you have for yourself today?
To be known nationwide.
Mm.
Attention is to be recognized nationwide, knowing that you can come to me because I have the same issue somebody else might have. They may have a stuttering problem because they stutter, they're not going to be listened to as importantly because they're
Mm,
stuttering. Okay. So just because you stutter does not mean you can't do it. It just means people have to have more patience and understand that if you're out there talking about something about yourself, and because you're stuttering, people don't want to wait around and listen to what you're saying because they want something done now,
mm.
listening to you for 5 minutes where someone else can say the exact same thing in a minute.
Mm, what I believe I'm hearing you say is not only to be a resource for other folks who also stutter, but to people who maybe are curious about, or maybe live with, or friends with, or associated with someone who stutters, or people who just want to know in general. Like it's not just the direct audience, it's all the indirect people who can benefit from the conversation
Right.
as well.
Right.
My intention is to support you in your intention today by creating a space for you to be able to share your story,
Right.
and that there will be people out there who hear your story, they see a little bit of themselves in you and your story, will feel a little bit more connected, a little less alone, and in the best of cases, potentially even more inspired or empowered to go out and do something they've been wanting to do.
Yeah. So about my story before we do the 5 questions. Okay.
Hmm.
I have a traumatic brain injury from a car accident as an infant and almost died. Okay.
Mm,
And so that was in 1976. And I had to relearn over and over and over again. And people didn't understand while you're growing up at 5 years old, you have to act a certain way that 5 year olds act. But when you go beyond that and you get in people's space and when you violate people, for example, I went to a girl one time, she's a teacher. And I said, "You smell." And I
mm,
you smell good.
mm,
So you got to understand, no matter how old you are, if you can communicate, you don't tell a girl that she smells. You got to tell them that they smell good if they're wearing perfume. And my mom had to recorrect me. So it's those little things, the concept of what you say and how you say it is important. If you don't do it correctly, people are going to be looking at you like, he's telling me that I smell. What do I smell like? They have no idea that it's that person's disability that limits their ability to speak correctly.
mm. It's powerful, right? Because
Yes.
not only is that your experience, but I think pretty much anybody who's listening can relate to that.
Mhm.
Not being able to communicate clearly, or not having communicated the way we intended, or the context is out of place or what have you. So this sounds like it has been a challenge for you, but
Yeah.
also presented lots of interesting learning opportunities.
Well, you learn and you try to get as much information as you can from other people. And it is difficult because I've dealt with it 50 years since 1976.
Mm,
Okay, when I have my injury, so I have a plate in my head. So more or less, there's a part of my brain that's not there. Uh,
mm,
but I'm functioning and I'm alive and I'm socializing and I'm out in society. But I'm on SSI, okay, living like millions of other people, just living,
hmm.
okay. And there's an issue with that. If you want to become successful, you can't be doing that by sitting watching TV and getting up at 11 o'clock. You got to go out there and deal with the real world. And there's a challenge there if you can't get to work, if you're on SSI and you're limited in the way you can receive, and so on and so forth. So it's very, very difficult for people to understand, these issues. I receive free medical. Okay, my medication is paid for
Hmm.
to cover my seizure medication and all of that. And so if I were to get a job, I have to find the right medical insurance and how to cover the costs. And if I don't work, I can't pay that. If I can't pay that, I can't get my medication. And I have to reapply if for some reason that job is not working or I'm making less money. I have less money now because I'm working than I
Hmm.
did when I'm not working, looking at the wall, watching TV.
Hmm.
Okay. So do you want to be safe or do you want to work? My parents separated in 1984 when I was 9 years old. So I didn't have the mom and dad's togetherness like many families do. Okay. And I had to deal with not having them together. And then I lost my mom in 1989 to a homicide. So I lost her in 89. I was 14. And then growing up,
Mm,
I didn't have anybody. My father was not a person who was supportive of me. He was on drugs. So those little things right there didn't help me, but helped me because I was a mama's boy. I needed
mm,
my mommy. Okay. And you either become that your whole life, wanting someone to hold your hand, or you get out of that and you become somebody. But with a brain injury, you sometimes need a little more than you have than a normal
mm,
person would have. But it was not easy growing up. I had no support, and then I went from foster home to my father's house, back to foster home, back to group home, just all the little things. When you have an abusive father, it's very, very difficult to deal with those issues when you can't even live comfortably with your father when he's sitting there degrading you because you are disabled, because my dad tells me your mom killed you. I mean, that's a terrible thing to say to
mm,
your own son, but when you're saying that, that means you're in your own world and you don't care about anybody else. Okay.
mm, mm,
Um, so my grandparents, they're the ones that saved me. When I turned 18 years old, my grandparents saved me from California to Florida. I moved to Florida, and they were the ones that were there to help me, to support me. But you have a situation that you got somebody with a brain injury and a generation lapse of grandparents playing parents.
mm,
Okay. And you have to deal with those two issues, a lap between grandparents and grandchildren, and between, a brain injury, how do you deal with life? How do you go out there and do things? And when you're 18 years old, you kind of like, you're on your own now. You can do whatever you want now. Do it to a degree that's not going to be in violation of anybody else.
mhm,
Can't be going out there and saying things and doing things and violating people's space, and having around that was not easy because I can do whatever I want. I'm an adult now, and it's not always that way. You got to be able to be respectful to people around you in order to make it out there. With a brain injury, that's difficult. That's very, very
mm,
challenging to understand that. So, one of the issues that I had to deal with was borderline intellectual functioning. Okay, and that is a okay. Borderline intellectual functioning is 70 to 85%, or 70 85% of thinking of IQ. So that deals with poor impulse control, and emotional regulation, difficult situations or understanding social cues, slow information processing speed, challenges in learning and applying new information, difficulty with abstract thinking and problem solving. Those are issues that those with brain injury, disability, can be affected by in different areas in life. And that is, and people in society don't understand that these people have got to deal with this issue their whole life. And society is supposed to be out there and help you. But if you're not
mm,
acting correctly, why are they here to help you? You're
mm,
not, we have to all be at the same standard. And
mm,
society doesn't understand that because they're the real world.
mm.
Okay.
Well, what I believe I'm hearing you say is it's not just it's not just kind of compounded by the fact that society doesn't understand what's going on. Is you're kind of entering the game already with maybe some limitations or fewer resources than the other average people are holding, and so it presents more challenges for you, and yet you're being held to the same standard as everyone else, and then the people holding the standard don't understand the challenges that you face. is
Right.
is that fair to say?
That's fair to say. I would assume most people with borderline intellectual functioning are good people and they know the boundaries, but many people out there don't understand because they don't understand life.
Hmm.
And me growing up, starting out, I was in that. area where I didn't understand life because I had to go into it was not easy going out there and understanding life at 18 years old without the support of a mom or a dad and grandparents trying to understand their child. And there's a lot there that people have to deal with if they don't have a mom or a dad or they don't have anybody there to support them. Who do they go to? Okay.
Mm,
And it
hmm.
was my grandparents, and then that happens, and they're there for you, for me, and then it was without them, I wouldn't have made it to where I was.
Hmm. Zylo, it sounds like you've really already kind of described to us where you have been sitting on a comma in your life. Since I didn't ask you the question before, let me ask it again. Is there anything else you would add to this part of the story? Where else have you found yourself sitting on a comma?
Okay, okay, yeah.
No, you're fine.
My grandparents or my grandmother created a special needs trust for me. Okay, so I would not lose my SSI.
Hmm.
Okay, and I would not. My father wouldn't touch my money that I had in the trust. Okay, and with that said, I was able to go to college and work on becoming successful and be that person I wanted to be because there was money set aside. And if I were to get a job, this special needs trust would help me if there was an issue that I lost my job, that I would be able to go to that while I'm trying to get back on SSI. Whereas today, can't do that. If
Hmm.
I'm on SSI, I got to wait 6 months on the streets looking to get back on SSI,
Hmm.
and that's very very difficult. Mm,
If I may, and again, correct me where I'm wrong. I had some experience with a special needs trust in the past when it came to taking care of my mother. This was some decades ago. And I think a lot of folks out there probably won't understand what a special needs trust is. It is not an inheritance, it is not income, it is not assets. When
no.
someone sets up a special needs trust for a loved one, it is designed to provide for things that whatever form of subsidization that they're under doesn't take care of. So, like, for example, my mother was in a nursing home. She
Mm,
didn't have a lot of income. We ended up having to get state assistance and we had to spend down her entire estate. Fortunately, she didn't have a lot. Well, I say fortunately, that's a terrible choice of words. My mother didn't have a lot of assets. There wasn't a home to sell or anything like that. So unlike others, she wasn't forced to sell her home and those sorts of things. But we did have to basically drain all of her resources, all of her money, and everything that she did make through pensions, retirements, and so forth had to go to the state. Basically, had to pay towards her care, and then the state picked up the gap. So she basically had no income whatsoever and no assets.
right,
When a loved one passed away and left her a special needs trust, that wasn't technically her money, but it could be used for anything. So I was able to pull from that trust, use it for things like shampoo, hair brushes, clothes, things that weren't going to be provided as part of her care. And then at whatever point that she would pass away, that trust goes on to whomever the next beneficiary is, right? It was never
right.
really an inheritance or, a windfall or anything like that. So if it's okay if I put that in there so people will understand what special needs trusts are, is there anything that I misrepresented or?
Well, they have special needs trust, and then they have special needs irrevocable trust. I believe they're the same, but they're different. I know the difference and all that. But they're here, of course, they're here to protect you and all that. In 1998, my grandparents were getting old. Okay, they were getting older. So with that said, here I am at 21 years old, and 1998, my doctor. Have you ever heard of Dr. Dean Adele?
I don't believe I'm familiar.
He's a world-renowned media doctor, and he became my trustee. He was the
Hmm.
one that was able to hold my $100,000 in trust money, so that I would not lose my SSI. And he was my trustee from 1998 to 2000, and I'm not sure the exact 2025. Okay,
Hmm. Hmm.
okay. And with that said, he helped me with the information because my grandparents were getting old. I went to college in 2001 for psychology. Okay. And that did not work out. Okay.
Hmm.
Then I went into real estate and I wanted to become a realtor. So that's where I worked on uh, a business, jumping over that 9 to 5. Okay, because
Mm-hmm.
9 to 5 is very, very hard. Okay, whereas working commission based or real estate, when you sell, you make money um, in what you do. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, in 2003, I had somebody help me get into real estate, and they paid for my license. They helped guide me and show me the importance of real estate, what not to do, and how to do it without not affecting my SSI. So
Mm-hmm.
I went out there with him, who was an attorney and a real estate broker, um, make this happen so that when I get my $1.4 million loan for my business, that I would be able to cut off my SSI like that and become successful um, with that put together, so that I can not sit around doing nothing for the rest of my life. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then in 2010, my grandfather passed away. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And my aunt Lois Haynes, disinherited me from my grandfather's estate, $80 million. And my trustees, Dr. Gina Dell and Sharon Johnson, helped me. Um, and then took a bribe and walked away. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here I am with a disability trying to become successful, going out there. There's forgery, embezzlement, tax evasion, wire fraud, other crimes my aunt committed. And then she goes ahead and she gives my trustee, Dr. Danielle, a bribe to walk away from the lawsuit, leaving me at a standstill since
Mm-hmm.
2010, you know. And with that said, here I am. I'm inferior. I'm less than. I'm not good enough. What am I going to do with $5 million? Okay, just because I'm disabled does not mean I can't use the money properly. It just means that if I want to do investments with a company, I have to know what I'm doing. If I don't know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing, how am I going to be able to invest correctly? Okay, but to use money, I'm uh, I got nothing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I want to speak about the issue of discrimination against those with disabilities. Just because you're disabled, you have to go out there and stand there. Like, I don't want to be taken advantage of because of my disability. And that's where I want to do the public speaking about the issue, because millions of people want to take advantage of because of their disability in life, and they're stuck on a comma.
Mm-hmm. You know, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you for the tough circumstances and situations that you have lived through and endured. So a huge acknowledgement for that, from what you shared with us about, coming into life with challenges and having to overcome those pretty much on a daily basis in your interactions with the broader world, right? And then all the work that you have tried to do in order to not only accomplish and achieve your own level of success, but also to support your self-sufficiency and your independence and your autonomy, right? And then to have potentially a scenario that could finally deliver that to you in almost a windfall kind of way, and to have people take advantage of that opportunity.
Right,
That's
right,
just a huge acknowledgement to you for having gone through that, and then just to acknowledge the fact that what you said, right? And I'll underscore it again to support the message that you're wanting to share, which is people not really being aware of how many people out there, because of their own biases, their own ignorance, or their own just basically selfish, greedy motivations, will take advantage of someone whom they believe incapable of protecting or defending themselves,
right, right.
particularly when money comes into play.
Of course, and that's the superior part of it. Money is the high part of it, and you don't deserve that because you're disabled.
Hmm.
But in 2007 to 2010, as a realtor, I sold $1.1 million. Actually, I listed $1.1 million in real estate, but only sold 500,000. Okay,
Hmm.
and that was 5 homes that I sold for $500,000. Okay. And with that said, I was able to make money and go from there. But I lost it
Hmm.
all.
Zylo, let me go ahead and ask the second question. As you look back at this situation, at this comma that you were sitting on, what did it create for you?
just being stuck at one point and not having people there to help you get to a point of where you want to be, because
Mm.
people don't understand what you're going through. They don't understand your situation because they don't know you, and it's hard to understand when you have different issues to deal with, what you got to deal with for that day. Um, and unless you have somebody to help guide you, you try to figure out yourself without a degree. It's not easy because you're trying to figure out how to do it, and I've been there many times trying to do it without while being rejected because you don't do it correctly.
Yeah, you had shared when we were off the microphone that really kind of the whole point of this conversation is that this comma instilled in you a desire to help others, right? You had shared with me kind of like the whole point of this is to to help others and to help them kind of not be taken advantage of. Is that right? And feel free to correct me where I misstated that.
Yes, correct. To do it with the help of other people,
Hmm.
um, and many people with disabilities, they're trying to be able to figure out how to do it without, well, try to make sense of what they're saying. Try to make sense, And again, I've been there. I've been there many times as an infant with my injury, being able to know what I'm saying without the advice and support of other people.
Well, it seems as though this is almost sort of galvanized you into being a champion for others.
Right.
What else? I feel like you've already shared with us kind of why that's important, but what else would you say? Why is it important to help others with this and these types of situations?
Because if you help somebody else get there, they'll be able to make it. I mean, you're expected to do something at a certain point, but because you can't do it, doesn't mean you can't do it. It's good to get advice and do it correctly.
People do need the help, and you have experienced this. And so not only do you know what it's like and you can empathize, but you've kind of been down that road. And so now you know what kinds of things to kind of point people towards. Is that fair to say?
Yes, correct, correct.
Before I go on to the third question, I'll ask you this based on your experiences with this and your desire to come out here and talk to people, what else or what would be important for many people out here to know? What are some things that you would like other people to understand about folks who are living with disabilities and the challenges that they face?
That it's very, very difficult because disabled people, people without disabilities get it and they do it because that's what they were told how to do it. With a brain injury and a disability, you have to have somebody retell you over and over and over again because you can't take it the same way um it should be taken. It has not been said. I just told you like 5 times and you're not doing it correctly. They don't understand that a person's brain may not be able to take it as well because they've heard it 5 times. And the
Mm,
concept is, well, I've already told you 5 times. Why are you not doing it correctly? And being able to absorb it and understand it correctly and go in the right direction on doing things correctly. So it's
hmm
very, very difficult because you feel rejected, you feel like you're not doing a good enough job. And for me, I want to be able to do things correctly. If I'm not doing it correctly, it's very, very hard because people don't understand. I may say it differently, but they don't understand it because they don't have a brain injury like I do. I have that
mm,
I have that issue, no one to turn to, and the world doesn't know you and your disability like your parents, friends, or neighbors would understand. The
mm.
real world does not understand that because they don't know you. They expect you to be at a certain point. If you're not there, then they're not going to help you because you're not at that point.
Hmm. If I may, let me jump in. This is similar to in my world some people that I know. And I talk to lots of friends who also have loved ones who are starting to lose memory due to age, right? Different situation than yours, but it creates some similar dynamics. I've had to reprogram myself around this very issue that you pointed out, right? Which is, you know, things get forgotten easily in these people's cases, right? So asking the question 3 times or 10 times doesn't matter. I have to change my own expectations because of what that person is carrying or having to work with or deal with, right? And sort of taking the being offended out of it or the frustration out of it, because it's not something that's happening to be difficult, or it's not personal, it's not about me, right? So that's what I'm hearing from you as well, is understanding and empathizing with what you're facing, and also not misunderstanding why it's happening or taking it personally.
Correct.
Silo, we'll move into the last 3 questions here. So you've described a lot about kind of the challenges you faced and really the mission you're on in order to help create awareness and to not only help others with disabilities protect themselves, but help others protect them, right? When you look back at what you've shared with us, what have you learned about yourself? Or what are you learning about yourself as a result of these challenges?
I've learned you never give up. Okay. The moment you give up, then it's not going to work. You have to
Mm,
not be afraid um, um, to go out there and try it. If you feel that you can't do it, then you're not going to make it. If you go out there and you try different ways and you get support, and people might look at you, this person's not doing a good enough job, doesn't mean that you can't keep on trying to do it correctly. It just means that you're not doing it, because if you're a disability, you may not be able to understand or comprehend what someone is saying or how it's done, because they just said do it this way. It doesn't mean you got to do it that way. You got to understand how you do it, not what you do, but how you do whatever you're doing. And that's the biggest issue we deal with, is how do you go about doing something if you don't do it correctly? How do you go about doing it?
mm. Well, it
Does that
seems
make
like there's,
sense?
yeah, it does. And it seems like it's also kind of a conversation around outcomes. Like, what is it you actually want me to accomplish? And then I might get there with a different how, but I can still get there just in a different way. I hear this from a lot of different guests on the podcast, never give up or don't give up. For you personally, I mean, speaking from my own experience, that can get hard sometimes, right? Because it's a mindset thing, and it's also a what we do in the world physically thing. What helps you stick to not giving up? Or what helps you overcome those moments when maybe you do feel like giving up?
Well, my objective is to was to develop a company called Code Violation Properties. Okay.
Hmm.
With the help of somebody who was a real estate broker attorney, he helped me develop a company called Code Violation Properties. And with that said, there's 1,000 properties, for example, in California or in Sacramento area that have code violations. And the objective was to get that property listed and sold to investors who can refix properties with code violations. So the objective
Mm,
was fix issues that a property that's been vacant, boarded for years. Okay.
mm,
And that one property has been sitting there. You got nice neighbor properties, but this one property, for whatever reason, is boarded and vacant with a fence around it. Okay. And that's what brings down the value of other properties, because that property is not being up to code. And that's where my code violation business came about, to get investors to buy these properties or get a hold of the owner and see, can we buy the property? It may need $15,000 to remodel the issue so that they can resell it. It's not buy and sell, it's buy, fix up, and resell.
mm-hmm.
So that was my objective of code violation properties, but lost all of that in 2010 when I had a situation with my aunt being disinherited. Everything I worked for, want to become independent off SSI, working hard to become going beyond the 9 to 5. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I cannot do 9 to 5. How do I get to work? I got to use paratransit services. I got to use a bus every day. Okay, and with health issues like seizures or whatever, I'm not going to be able to drive. You just can't go out there and do that. And understand. So therefore, I was working on the business and lost all of that in 2010.
Mm, mm. So that's a challenge. And you were saying, one of the things that you've learned is never give up. What helped you to kind of move past that? What helped you not give up?
Because if I give up, then I not try to find other ways to make it work. If
Mm,
you don't try, if you just sit there hoping somebody can hold your hand, then you're not going to make it because as an adult, you have to figure out how to get to where you got to go. And that's where you need the support of people that will know you, understand you, respect you, and be there for you because you've done something to make that happen. And mine was code validation properties because I would have people that are experienced in real estate
mhm,
work together with me to make this as you got foreclosure home, people with homes that are in foreclosure, that's one thing. But code violation, that requires a whole different concept. And there was nobody out there that dealt with code violations. Okay. And I would like to have been the only person in the country that sold property without a car. And I listed properties and got to the put them on, made a profile for properties so that I can sell those properties. That was my objective, to be one of the few people in the country with a disability, brain injury, to become successful while on SSI to get off the SSI.
mm, mm. So you took big steps. You had a big vision. You were kind of a pioneer, and you took some risks.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, and if my SSI stopped, I would be on the streets right now. So
Mm,
the issue is that I did not get that loan, okay, to start my business. If I got that loan and lost all of that, be on the streets. And it's very, very scary how many people are on the streets because they tried and failed without the support of somebody else to help them get to
mm,
where they want to be. And again, this is beyond the 9 to 5 because 9 to 5, I haven't worked in 15 years. 15 years I have not worked. Okay.
mhm,
And doing the 9 to 5 or working an hourly wage job can be difficult because I don't drive. How am I going to get there? Okay.
mhm,
And if I can't get there, then why am I getting a job here to lose my benefits because I got a job? I can't get there. I have a seizure. If I have a seizure on the property where I work, there's a liability there. So because I have seizures, there's a liability. We don't want to have that liability. But if I have a
mhm,
seizure, I can sue them, and you don't want to deal with all of that. So the 9 to 5 is not easy for people to go out there and work. When you do commission based, that's where you're able to um, work on your own as a realtor, as a public speaker, as a comedian to speak about whatever in front of people.
mhm. Well, and I feel like you've already kind of started answering the next question, which was the fourth question is, what has changed for you as a result of sitting on this comma? I do believe I've heard you say I've become a public speaker. I've started doing things kind of outside the 9 to 5. What else has changed for you?
Well, again, going from 9 to 5, going from real estate to speaking about the issue. If you don't have a disability, if you don't have the issue, whatever the issue is, then you won't understand. Okay.
Mm,
So somebody without a disability may not understand the issue because they don't have a disability.
hmm
So because I have that issue, I understand it very, very well. I go through it all the time. That's where I can relate to those who also have it as well. And society doesn't understand why this person is doing this, not realizing that there's not a word on his forehead saying, "Oh, I'm disabled." You don't know that. You don't know why they're that way, but that's their issue.
hmm
And that'll affect their life throughout their life. That it's very hard to do it without being rejected. I've been rejected. You're disabled, you can't do it. Okay. And that's where I worked hard to read something and do something, understand how to do it correctly. And I really impressed myself and the world. But when you take advantage of and other issues, it's all taken away.
mm,
Very hard to redo it all over again after you work on it for a long time.
yeah. Well, it just continues to underscore for me how important it is to let people tell their stories, to let people share what their lived experience has been, because not everybody, has walked every path. Not everybody is an expert in everything. We have to listen to other people. We have to understand and empathize with what it's like to walk in other people's shoes. Not because we have to suddenly go become experts in it ourselves or because we have to walk that path, but just understand where people are coming from. I mean, that's what I'm taking from what you're sharing is, I think there's a lot of valuable information that I can take from a practical sense from what you're sharing. And then also just appreciating what other people's lives are like. Like I joke because, you know, growing up and going through school, I didn't like math and I didn't like science mostly. That doesn't mean that I have to learn how to become a mathematician and go be one, but I can appreciate why we have those people, right? Because I don't do that so much. So, this is very helpful to understand and appreciate what other people are going through.
Right.
Silo, fifth question, final question as we start to bring things to a close. What does getting off the comma look like for you?
Um, Being able to spend a lifetime of speaking. Okay. And if I were to have like a somebody superior to me that I can go to for advice on what to and what not to say and how to and how not to do something and how to be impressive to the world. Um, and so therefore I could not do, I mean, getting into real estate now is very, very difficult. So my objective is to speak about the issue nationwide, worldwide, anywhere I can, and let the world know that those that are shy, those that are afraid, and I've been there. I've been afraid because I was teased, put down by my own father. If you're being teased or put down by your own father, then you know that you learn that you're going to get rejected by people just because you're not doing it at a certain standard. So
Mm-hmm.
my objective is to have a group of people. Let's say we have 5, 6 people with different issues on the topic, different issues with disability, different issues with like a publicist or something like that to help you send your messages to the world and become successful about the issue. And that's I'm not good at doing that. I have to be able to work on my public speaking to make sense of what I'm saying than just moving my mouth and talking.
Mm,
That people a lot of people do. They just talk and you're just wasting their time, people's time, because you're just talking about whatever. It doesn't help anybody because you're just talking and it has no relevance to anybody else. And that's what you got to work on. I got to work on getting the group
mm.
to discuss the issue of what we deal with every single day with a disability.
I really appreciate you talking about this because so much of my career has been public speaking and instructing and teaching and so forth. And I would even add this is like absolutely I honor, your quest to get support and learn new techniques for how to present and speak and so forth. And yet, personally and selfishly, I would also say please never lose the unique and individual part that is you and your lived experience because that really is the compelling part, right? So many people out there, and because you shared that in your story, so many people are out there willing to take your money and telling you to talk like this, and this. But at the end of the day, it's you and your story and your unique way of telling the story that is what makes it special and authentic and meaningful. So, I hear you in your goals, and also acknowledge you in the authenticity of your story as well.
Right.
Nice. Zylo, so much more we could take from you in your stories. Let's bring this one to a close. Two things before we end the episode. First of all, and I'll put these links in the show notes. If people wanted to find you, follow you on social media and so forth, where can people find you? Website, social media, etc.
They can find me at www.zylomarshall.com. So it's my name about disabled rights and legislation and employment rights and those that are trying to make it out there while they're adults above and beyond the living on the system. You can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm on there as well. Also regarding disabilities, I'm on Facebook as well to discuss these issues with disabilities and to if people want me to speak about the issue, then I can discuss the issue and make it easier for the disabled to do more than living in fear of the unknown while collecting money doing nothing. You
Mm,
know, is again, if you're not working and you're not getting your SSI, you're homeless. Okay, you're an adult, you're homeless. Who do you turn to? The streets. And I know people out there that are homeless for 5, 10, 15 years. What do they do? And that's scary. Scary to think about that can happen to anybody out there if they don't do correctly.
hmm Zylo, I appreciate you acknowledging those folks as well. And that takes us into this last piece that is a part of every episode. And I call it acknowledgments. And it's an opportunity for you to give a voice to, boost, lift up, promote, and support others who matter to you. And that could be causes, organizations, it could be other creators, or just people in your sphere of influence. Who would you like to acknowledge today?
I want to acknowledge, and again, this is kind of a negative situation, unfortunately. I want to acknowledge Dr. Dina Dale, who took advantage of me. Okay.
Mm,
Did fraud and corruption and financial exploitation against me. Okay. He, world renowned doctor, here to uh, tell the world about medical and then take advantage of me because I'm inferior. Okay. My other trustee, Sharon Johnson, took advantage of me. So therefore, I'm not good enough. And then Lois Haynes, my aunt, took advantage of me, um, having me disinheriting me from my grandfather's estate and making it very, very difficult because they were the ones I turned to. I would have turned to for support because they're older. They and my aunt just didn't want to deal with me. My disability is my fault. Therefore, I am a criminal because I'm disabled. And having that concept that because you're disabled, you're a bad person is
mm,
how people thought of me by my aunt. And then my trustee said, "Oh, you know what? He doesn't know about life. Why should we help him get his own money?" When I was a realtor working hard to become somebody, and they thought I was faking realty. So, um, gotta let them know that these people are not here. They're here for themselves, not helping those with disabilities.
mm. Well, I want to thank you for coming and sharing your story with us today, letting us learn from your experience, and I'm very confident that there will be those out there who are going to be able to connect with your message and relate to many of the things that you've shared. And I know that there's going to be a lot of other people too who are going to learn a great deal on behalf of people that they know or people that they've encountered. So I want to thank you for your time today.
Yes, thank you very, very much.
Awesome. You have a great weekend, and we'll be following your story.
Thank you.
What an honor it is for me to hear and share these powerful stories. I hope you feel the same way. Think about what you learned from this conversation. I encourage you to write it down in some form of journaling or reflection because surprises can reveal themselves to you when you write your thoughts down. If you were moved by today's conversation, pass it along to someone you care about. And if you do discover something you'd like to unpack further, book a call with me and let's talk about it. My links are in the show notes. Be sure to like this episode and follow the podcast here on this platform and all social media at Off the Comma. Feel free to interact and comment. Thank you for listening to this episode of Off the Comma. As always, keep noticing and keep listening.